From the boardroom to the community, from tech startups to mental health advocacy, Myra Maloba presents to you the Women Per Excellence podcast. Each week, join the queen of interviews as she takes you through visionary women who are breaking barriers and leading change. Together, let's amplify these remarkable voices, inspiring the world, one story at a time.
Welcome to yet another episode of Women Per Excellence World, episode 3. And of course, if you're not familiar with the podcast and you've just joined us, first of all, welcome. But we are a podcast that is dedicated to amplifying the voices of exceptional women across diverse fields, including business, technology, mental wellness, community leadership, influence, and politics. Now, by sharing their stories, we inspire, educate, and empower our listeners while creating a platform that aligns with brands committed to supporting women's success and leadership. Today's episode is quite special and interesting, especially with what has been happening in the country lately. Remarks that have been made, which we'll be delving into later on the show. But of course, I'd like to first start by welcoming our guests to studio, two young and phenomenal women who are running a fantastic, incredible foundation. First, we have Sumayyah Ruguru. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
And we have Yvonne Wanja. Now, Sumayyah is the CEO of Sumayyah Foundation. And we also have Yvonne Wanja, who is a recent actuarial science graduate. She works with the organization by creating curated blogs, posts related to issues concerning sexual assault, collects data and creates reports for projects done to allow assessment of outcomes as an internal auditor. She also verifies the accuracy and competencies, or rather completeness, of financial records and tax records, thus ensuring compliance with accounting standards and identifying potential errors in the organization's financial platform. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Might I also mention that they are very good best friends or good friends? Yeah, but yes, they're also friends as well, working together, which is also a great and amazing thing to see. I think in the last episode we talked about women supporting women, so this is a great example of that. Now, Sumayyah, just let us in a little bit into about yourself and what led you on the path of starting the foundation.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Mm-hmm. I'm Sumayyah Ruguru, and I'm a law student at the University of Nairobi, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Sumayyah Foundation. So Sumayyah Foundation was born out of a quiet and painful realization that grew louder in my heart during the global #MeToo movement back in 2020. So the #MeToo is a social movement and awareness campaign started in 2016 that encourages women to publicize their sexual assault stories and come forward and tell them. So as I was reading on that day now, 2020, as I was reading the stories of thousands and thousands of women from all over the world and in Kenya, in Nairobi, my heart really broke, because some of these girls and women, they could have been me. Some of these girls were actually me.
Right.
Yeah. And in that moment, I knew that I had to do something about it, because, by nature, I'm not a conformist. I'm more of a skeptic person.
Okay.
So I decided to dive into the conversation and educate myself on matters of sexual assault. I did a few SRHR courses online, and now I founded Sumayyah Foundation in 2021. And not because I had all the answers, but because I wanted to create a safe space where survivors were heard, believed, and education was used as a tool for awareness and healing. So basically, Sumayyah Foundation was my way of saying that, you're not invisible, and your pain is not inconsiderate. Yeah. So it started as a spark within me, but it's always been about all of us.
Right.
Yes.
So Summayah mostly caters to the girl child, to women.
Yeah, no. We our target audience is adolescent girls, young women, and also vulnerable boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'll ask you the same. What led you to join Summayah and the foundation?
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity again. I remember you asked if we are best friends or really close friends. I would say she is my closest friend.
Okay.
And like my big sister as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's only older by a couple of months though.
Yes.
But I remember in that time we weren't even as close as we are now. But at the time I remember I was in a space where I had a lacking in sex education.
Okay.
And it's not because I wanted to, it's because I guess of the systems we are in right now. I believe most of us have grown in homes where talking about sex or sex education is considered a taboo or a topic that shouldn't be talked about.
Yeah.
But then I saw her and this is what she was talking about, advocating for or teaching about sex in its essence, and then sexual assault. And at the time, I didn't know much about consenting or understanding situations in which I might have engaged in that could result in me being potentially being assaulted, or also being in a space where someone is being assaulted and I'm also not aware.
Right.
Yeah, so that is when it came to me that this is such a good initiative. And I asked her, I was like, I'm really interested in joining this organization, in what you guys are doing. I want to learn more. I want to be empowered. And I also want to be in a space where there is empowering for people who go through these things, because these things happen.
Right.
They happen so much in our society. And it's so sad that we don't talk about them that much, So when I joined Sumayyah Foundation, it was an opportunity for me also to learn and to also grow. And that is why we are here today, because of the growth and the learning. And I can say that through this organization, I have learned so much, especially about consenting sexual activities and the likes of that. So, yeah.
You said it's been in existence for 4 years.
Yeah, since 2021.
So what have you dealt with since you started? What are the situations you deal with? How many girls have you worked with at this point?
So, I believe we've worked with over 3,000 girls.
Wow.
Because we, most of our outreach program, we direct them in secondary schools. So, and we've visited quite a number of secondary schools here in Nairobi.
Right.
And also we've extended our mission to other counties like Nyeri and also Machakos. Yeah, so we've dealt with quite a number, a good number of girls and also boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they open up when you're dealing with them?
Yes. And we created that space where we told them that they don't have to tell us, they can write it down. So every time we go visit them after the education, we give them a chance to write down. Because, there's no name, there's nothing, we won't know anything.
Yeah.
But we also tell them that, if you need a more personal conversation or require further help, you can write down your name and your class and we'll be able to reach out. So yes, and we do get so many responses.
Right.
Some of them are deeply heartbreaking. Like I remember on our first visit, we went to, it was high school, a day high school.
Right.
So when we gave them the chance to open up, they sent notes. And I remember the first one I opened up, it read that, "Hi, Summayah. I don't have pads. So the Boda guy has to sleep with me every time I'm on my periods.
Oh, wow.
So that I can get access to pads. Is that sexual assault?" And the most heartbreaking part was the questioning, like, is it sexual assault, because it's a bit doubtful. Yeah, it's like, because I'm doing this, like, is it really sexual assault?
Right.
Yeah. It was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And when we visit girls' high schools, we usually gift them pads. Yeah, we give them pads. So that day we were able to give them pads. But, also, like, things like those are what keep me up at night. And, I'm left questioning myself, like, Summayah, what more can you do?
Right.
How can you further your outreach? How can you be of more impact to these girls?
It's still unfathomable to me that things like condoms are free and pads are
not.
charged.
Yeah,
In fact, there was a time pads were almost taxed, like last year there was a time there was an interest in adding taxation to sanitary towels, and it was...
Yeah.
And the people who are making these decisions are men. This is the world we live in. It's such an interesting time. But then these stories, they come up and there's still a blind eye being turned towards these issues. Especially now, I think it's really hard to not talk about what's happening now in Parliament, the remarks that were made, the very unfortunate remarks that were made by a fellow woman when she compared the lack of funds, the lack of money to assaults. And even assault happens to women of stature as well. It has no barriers whatsoever. When it comes to that, what kind of education do you impact on the girls?
So with that, there's something we called victim blaming. Which is where the blame is put on the victims instead of the perpetrators. So, mindsets like those are what habitually, give the confidence to give such remarks. Because, she was talking from a place of, those girls, they don't have money, they don't need it. Instead of
looking for money,
The question would have been like, why do men do this, and not women should be doing
even
this?
Even the major question is it a grounds if I'm looking for money, or basically if I am to go to a man's place or engage with a man because I'm looking for money, is it really grounds to
kill someone?
Is it grounds to kill
someone?
The victim blaming, like you've mentioned, it's not even in regards to money. It's sometimes excused on dressing.
Exactly.
How you
and
walk,
it's such a broad aspect.
The one thing I like saying about victim blaming is majorly as the statistics show.
Yes.
About 60% of women who are assaulted, or even more, are assaulted in their own homes. They are assaulted by their husbands, intimate partners. Very few. About only 5 to 10% are assaulted by strangers or in these circumstances. So I usually ask a person, so if dressing was really the problem, or me working at night was a problem, so to that woman who got married and their husband decides to kill them, defy them, or gender-based violence, sexual gender-based violence happens in this home. Will you tell this woman you should not have gotten married? Because like if the major people who are assaulted are the ones in safe spaces with people they trust, and they're still down for these things. So will you tell them? Will we start by telling women never get married because it's a high risk? Because they're considering these other situations as if they're also high risk, but in real sense you can see very well it's the perpetrator who's the problem, because you can't tell me not to get married. You can't tell me not to have a partner or an intimate partner, but you can tell me not to wear like this, you know? So the question comes in there.
Exactly. Where does the blame truly lie?
Yeah.
Before we proceed, I'd like to give a trigger warning for anybody who's watching and may be triggered by the conversation. If it's raising any issues for you, please feel free to leave the conversation, but we do hope that this conversation does still lead towards inspiring those who are watching. All right. Now, in your work, what would you say are the major challenges you experience, especially with the foundation?
With the foundation, currently, our major challenge will be in finances, because over the past 3 years or so, we've been funding for ourselves, and it has been a bit overwhelming with that, because it's so much we can do with the resources we have. It's not really much, and we would love to create more impact and broaden our work to more counties and more places, not just in Kenya, but, even in Africa and globally.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever faced people who are not okay with the message you are
for sure.
sharing?
Yeah.
I think, that could be the second challenge that we'll be facing, because I remember there's a certain school we visited and we were almost sent away. We were preaching, but we were teaching, we were teaching things concerning sexual assault.
Right.
They were not aware, even things like dressing. They were very much against what you were teaching, because you were like, dressing is not grounds to rape someone. Then they were like, and it was crazy. Like, we left there, we came with gifts, we left with them. They didn't want nothing to do with us after.
Yeah.
Wow. And did that come mostly from the teachers, the administration, the students?
The students.
It came from the students.
Because remember, it was also in our kind of an undeserved community, I'd say. A rural place. So it was interesting the way they received us, and we would try to teach them a thing or two, but then they would be like, no. And the most disheartening part was, even when we asked them, like, what can you do if you get raped? What do you think you should do? Because sometimes you do ask the students to see their perception of it. And most of the girls would answer something like, if you get pregnant, don't abort. Go to a counselor. There was nothing about healthcare. There was nothing about legal aid that they knew. And it was so disheartening, because they were also repulsive against our energy. But then at the same time, you notice the lack of awareness.
Right.
So we left there feeling very sad. I remember our journey there was a happy one. Like, we were happy and everything, going even in ukondani ndani, But I remember how we came back. Right. We were disheartened. We were wondering, hey, But it's interesting because, like, at the end of the day, there was at least one person who came to us. Like, there was one particular boy, I'd say, who reached out to us after a few months even, and he was like, you are the organization that deals with these things of sexual assault.
Right.
And he confessed that his auntie had been doing something to him, And it was like, that parable of Jesus, like the 99 sheep, and then there's that one sheep that he goes for. Yeah, I think it felt like that.
Right.
Yeah, so majorly, even though there was that barrier, that impact, even though it is to one particular person, I think it was nice, interesting even,
And also to add on to that, at Sumayyah Foundation, one of our goals is to form a community-based collaborative response to survivors of gender-based violence and sexual gender-based violence. because, the community in itself has such a very big impact on how people and, even children perceive certain aspects.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we also try to work with the community and try to, end this stigma
and cultural barrier.
Does religion play also a big part in perception?
Perception in relation?
In regards to SRHR. In that I mean their religious beliefs into how to tackle,
these things,
the sexual approach to things. We've seen it play out, like recently, even in the cases of the girls who are married off early, and religion has played a big part. And I don't want to really come out and say but I know what I mean. Yes. Have you ever faced where also religion comes in terms of challenges, as in when you're trying to promote?
Maybe ingrained in their system already, so that they are maybe like on a personal level, I'd say, maybe ingrained in their system, like already they have these preconceived ideas based on religion, I'd say, and then now they project it, during the visit, but not necessarily like in a way that is too deep.
Okay. Legalities of coming up with a foundation. What were the challenges you faced with that?
The process, it took really long. Because it took us almost 1 year just to get registered, and we had all the right documents, and we did everything by the book. But it's okay. At the end of the day, we did get registered, which was the most important part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a month where we're talking about wellness. And of course, wellness plays out for the people that you're working with, the lives that you're impacting, but also yourselves.
Yeah.
How has this been for you, both emotionally?
So, I'm a very empathetic person, and I like to say that it's both a blessing and a curse, because it is empathy that drove me to do the work that I do now. And whenever we have these visits, like I like to mention my mom, because every time I get home, she noticed the pattern. She was like, yo, Summayah, like every time you come, you always go and you're very excited. But when you come back, you're very sad, because it does take a toll on you.
Right.
Especially as a deeply empathetic person, because I'm wondering, like, I can't believe I just left that girl in school and she's facing X, Y, and Z. Like, oh my God, that boy is being molested by their dad at home, Wow. So these are the thoughts that keep me up at night.
Right.
And I try my best, to also come back to myself and remind myself that, this is why Sumayyah Foundation is here. It is to help them. And currently in my position, I am doing the best I can with the resources and the capabilities that I have to make their lives a bit better. Even if it's just a small stride.
Sorry, the stresses are also not only what you're dealing with, but also financially. Paperwork.
For sure.
It's a bit, but the good outweighs the bad.
Right.
Like it is worth it at the end of the day, because even if it's just one life that we get to impact, that's enough.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
How does it play out for you?
Emotionally, I'd say that
your wellness as a whole, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me start by acknowledging the positive kind of wellness I get from the organization, because even us, we continue to empower, to educate, to provide healthcare, legal aid to sexual assault survivors, I do feel a feeling of a sense of fulfillment from the organization. I believe that even though sometimes it can be overwhelming to create projects, create events, come out with budgets, also look for the funds, everything. I do believe that when the cause is now in action, maybe when I'm standing in front of boys and girls and I'm talking to them about sexual consent and they have questions and they ask afterwards, and I know for a fact that somebody has learned something. But sometimes we go home, these children go home and they encourage us on social media. They're like, you guys are doing such great work.
Yeah, they actually write us some very good messages.
Even on the anonymous messages, they be like, wow, thank you so much. You've educated me on something.
Right.
And even on top of that, as I was saying before, sex ed is not something that's discussed a lot.
Right.
So like to be able to create a space where people come and they can talk about assault, or like they can make these confessions, they can ask these questions that they have about sex, about everything, and you can provide at least an answer, or they can know something out of it. It comes with fulfillment. It comes with contentment as well, that I know somewhere in society someone has received an act of empathy, you know? Yeah, but also like I share with her sentiments in the sense where sometimes it can be deeply overwhelming, especially when you go and visit a school, or like there's this one time we visited a rescue center, and oh my God, it was that experience.
Could you describe it a little bit? Give us a little bit of a...
So we visited a rescue center somewhere here in Nairobi. It's somewhere like in the interior, and you go and you find that this woman is a host for children who have gone through sexual abuse.
Wow.
Different kinds. You hear different kinds of stories. A baby was assaulted at 1 year.
Like I remember the woman, the host, she was like, these rooms are locked because there are kids inside who've been assaulted. And she was like, would you like to come in? And for an instant, I'm literally getting goosebumps. I can just think about it. And I walked into that room. It was a 6-month-old baby who had been assaulted by the father.
It's crazy.
And now the baby, oh my God, like, and you know what the dad said in court? He said that alidhani ni bibi yake.
Wow.
Remember, he had to remove the pampers. How do you unadhani ni bibi yako to a 6-month-old baby who you had to remove the pampers? Even the baby is crippled.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like crazy. She can no longer walk. Because, he was holding her down like this and assaulting her. So you can the baby is crippled and assaulted at 6 months old. And the worst part is that the wife was covering. That's why the kid is at a rescue center. The mother was covering for the husband. And she told me that day in court, it was just full of angry and bitter women who literally wanted to beat both of them up. Because
you can understand why.
How dare you? Like, the least you can do for your child, at least.
Stand up for them. Even,
And the dad, his comment about Etelidhani ni bibi yake.
It was crazy. It was also like remembering even that same experience.
It's literally giving me goosebumps right now.
I remember girls in class 8, girls in class 7
had
already
children.
Moms. It was so heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking to hear. It's happening
even
every day.
It's
happening every day.
Yeah, and the fact that sometimes it's ignored or it's not considered like,
a
crisis.
Right. And family tend to cover up for their own.
Their own.
Kinyumbani.
It's quite disheartening to hear. I usually look at, people like you in your line of work. Like I think I was talking to the time I was talking to Njeri Wamigwi, I was like, how do you decompress from all of this? How do you get yourself okay after you do a rescue. Like, you guys are doing the Lord's work. And on that note, that is the end of part 1. Come back for part 2, where we'll be discussing more about the work that is done at Sumayyah Foundation, including the economic empowerment and mental health of women.